You're a good person to ask about the temperature of the meeting. It seems like everybody here is talking about the global growth slowdown, but nobody seems particularly worried, especially about the U.S. Is that how you see it?
Well, the word that I heard most was the word moderation, to make sure that people understand there is growth. It is moderated relatively to what was last year, but it is clearly not in the direction of a recession or anything of that type. And there are many good reasons to explain why growth should be moderated. Some of them are domestically, but many of them are internationally. The international environment is less positive. Europe is having its problem. The trade negotiations with China are producing a lot of negative sentiments in the market.
Is that hurting growth, the trade tensions?
Well, it hurts plans of growth. It hurts sentiments. And you know, if you really want to have a gauge about how business people look at it, just look at every pips of positive news about negotiations, you will see markets go up. And every pips of negative, you will see markets go down. Because people understand it's beyond trade. It has to do with the ability to govern a complex world. And therefore, when the two large giants of the world, China and the US, are engaged, markets and the economy needs to see them communicating and reaching an agreement.
Well, we've heard some positive news here on that front. We will see. Really wanted to get your thoughts on monetary policy right now. We just had Rich Clarida, Vice Chairman of the Federal Reserve. Wouldn't give us a clue as to which way they were leaning in terms of the Fed move. What's your expectation? Do you think the next move will be a hike or a cut?
I think it will be a hike, but it is, of course, as the chairman indicated, it is data dependent. But the fact of the matter is, we have now coming out of 10 years of extremely low interest rates all over the world. The Fed was the first to start the normalization process.
Which you were a big proponent of.
Very much indeed, and not because people like normal, because it's nice to be normal, because there are distortions. When interest rates are much too low, it affects negatively the economy in many areas, and especially financial markets are going to be much more vulnerable with interest rates which are too low.
Are they still distorted?
They are, because interest rates are still too low relatively to the long term. The issue is the timing, and this is the delicate balance. So I think that when the Fed announced, in a way, a departure from the original path, 2019 was supposed to be to see more hikes, and 2020 even more. And so the Fed decided to slow down. The words were patience, but the word patient means let's see when how the dust settles, because there are external issues that are unsettling. We need to see what happens with Brexit. Clearly, it's bad news. We need to see what happens in other regional areas, what happens to the trade negotiations. You have Italy in Europe, you have Turkey.
A lot of reasons to be patient.
You have many reasons to be patient to see how the dust settles. But by and large, I think that when we get into 2020, we will see, hopefully, the growth resumes. Resumes means going back up. And then with it, the normalization will take place.
I just really want to get your thoughts here on whether we should be worried about central bank independence. You've written a lot about the topic. You've thought a lot about it. We have two potential Fed nominees. Doesn't look like Herman Cain is going to get the votes. Stephen Moore still potentially out there. Does this mark a serious departure in terms of political appointees on the Fed, and should people be concerned about it?
Well, I think should always be concerned, because central bank independence is one of the most important pillars of economic policies that can generate stability, and the absence of it can generate instability. Especially in the modern era, with capital markets being so complex, being a Fed governor or being in general a central banker is a profession. It requires professionalism. It's not a political prize or medal for somebody who supported somebody else. The stakes are very, very high. So I would say that you will not give the license to fly an airplane just to a friend. You will need him to be professional. And let me tell you, the economy is a very large, complex airplane.